So Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia had really good potential to it, really cool idea with like really good actual themes, like woven into it. But I'll admit, it didn't make the landing for me. It didn't hit that like mark around the end. But there's still a lot of good stuff within the book too, so I want to start like there. So we're in the 1950s, and the aesthetic is already just like dripping off of the page as our main character, Noemi, is coming home from like this rowdy little party she's been at with her new beau, and she gets called in to see her dad, not in regards to like the party or the boyfriend or anything, but in regards to just like he's sending her on a bit of a mission because they got a letter from her cousin, his niece, that she's now married, cousin is married, in a new home, and the letter is not quite sane. She doesn't sound okay within the letter. She's basically asking for help. And what's interesting about Noemi's character does kind of start off right away because, yeah, she's at a party with a new little boyfriend and she's having some fun. But dad bribes her to go on this mission to want to help her cousin because Noemi does actually want to help her cousin. But he bribes her with like school classes. She's clever, she's smart, she likes going to school for like a bunch of different little subjects. That kind of comes into play later, but not really. So yeah, cousin is not okay. Naomi goes over to her new house to like check up on her and check up on the like new husband and the family and the in-laws, and things are really sketchy. Because of course they are. We're in a horror story, right? I love it. So she can't quite like get her cousin and just bail, right? Because her cousin is like weirdly docile now and like okay, but still not herself. And the new husband really like won't let them, and it's like the 1950s. We don't want like a social scandal on our hands. You're so worried about your cousin? Okay, fine. Get another doctor's second opinion. You might as well stay here as like a guest for a while. So we need to get our cousin, out of this place and just get the F out of Dodge. High Place. It's called High Place. Well, no spoilers. I don't want to go into any spoilers, but it involves this wonderfully decrepit mansion. Y'all know I love that. And like a fungal mushroom system. Also just fun. And something I kind of clung on to was this like hints of, not hints, color is used a lot within the story. It's constantly mentioned how like there's certain stained glass pieces, or like how colorful some of the flowers are but not quite, or how distinct some of the mushrooms around kind of look. The house is very dreary, but color is mentioned a lot. It hints at that like classic Victorian horror setting that's been like painted over. So the setting is really cool, and the themes are woven in really well with the whole like mushroom fungal system going on at the same time. You got this like hive mind idea and like that versus free will and the fight for it for free will with a not so subtle, underlying tone of eugenics. So that's there. And that's all tied in with this like creepy environment and these creepy villains, but creepy in the sense of like you're standing in a grocery store and this man you don't know stands up kind of a little too close behind you. That kind of creepy. Now, all of those elements are there. They're all woven together really well. And I want the main characters to be okay. I want the good side characters to be okay. I want the main character to be okay. I want Noemi to be okay and back with her family. But I'll admit, her character kind of didn't land for me. She was developed, but not explored enough within this specific plot, I feel. She starts off great and she's fleshed out fine, like I said, and she's consistent all the way through. But elements of her character are mentioned that aren't really utilized. And this is kind of tricky to like explain, get my thoughts out on it, because there's an element revealed around the end of like the house and why her cousin is like weirdly docile that like kind of help play into why Noemi can't quite help out as much as she could theoretically, but that also kind of feels like a cop out. Cop out feels mean, but it feels like it's an element that is letting the main character be more passive than I want her to be in her own story. As an example, actually, the colors that I mentioned, the like painted over Victoria setting, the colors that I mentioned are mostly in like stained glass windows and stuff and that artistry. She knows what chemical compounds are used to make what colors and what glass and kind of how it's all made. She's clever, she's smart, she's gone through to like a bunch of university classes. But she doesn't really use that, even just trivia, to work her way out of this situation. She knows these cool things, but they're not really helping her. She's kind of handed everything too. She goes seeking out information in the beginning, she does. And it's kind of the story and histories are kind of told to us through like some exposition, through some weird dreams. But things are kind of handed to her. She does like connect a final piece at the very end. I'll give her that. But there's still so much where she's kind of relying on someone else, the love interest, half of the time, or kind of waiting for things to play out. I just wish she could have figured out like the escape plan on her own, or at least figure out like half of the escape plan on her own, or at least get like a weapon. And Noemi knows how to like talk with the people, right? She's very charismatic. She knows how to converse with people and like subtly manipulate them in small ways and kind of present herself as very like non-threatening. And she still stands up for what she believes in. She is that like 1950s independent woman, but it's again, it's technically plot wise, but it's like it's slowly weaned away from her kind of. I wish she learned a way to like twist that element at least. Her own charisma around herself enough to kind of use against the villains as well. There's also this detail that as like a kid or a teen, she spent some time in like a church monastery for a while as like a Sunday school there, and she like did well. I'm sorry, this 1950s woman going to little parties and like smoking cigarettes and having a new boyfriend every couple of months. That doesn't mesh, and it's barely even brought up, really. There's vague themes of like religion around like the villain family, but like that's kind of it. There is this cool scene around the end, like no spoilers, but her cousin pulls off something pretty cool while being like weirdly docile. And like I feel like that's her cousin, in there using what little strength she has left to pull off something. And like using that to also worm her way a little closer to her married in family. I wish Noemi did something kind of like that. And again, you could argue that she technically does from like the family's point of view, but it doesn't feel like enough. It doesn't feel like enough. She pretends to go along with some things. We're aware that she really doesn't want to, but also like the family and the in-laws also know that she doesn't want to. So it feels like she's a bug stuck in a web and she doesn't want to be there, but she's waiting for another bug also stuck in the web to help get her out. When I wish she like tore through the web herself. Anyway, yeah, I had a decent time with Mexican Gothic and with Noemi, but I think it needed that extra little bit of like, I don't know, activism from her, I guess. And again, that still feels kind of slippery because like just given how the plot goes, that it feels like a cop-out. She does put the last piece together though, like I said, and I'll give her that. But yeah, feel free to like and subscribe, and I am actually off to work on a new cross-stitch project that I started of like a little goth Tamagotchi. Anyway, see ya!